Okay, so today we have lecture number 5, and today we will cover the LO2 and its assessment criteria. Okay, today we will discuss LO2 and its assessment criteria 2.1 and its indicative content. We have the assessment criteria 2.2, use different information gathering techniques to review an existing system. And in this, we have different information gathering techniques, which are interviews, observation, documentation, investigation, surveys, and focus groups. So there are many techniques, but we have to just focus on these, which are mentioned in the indicative content. Okay, different information gathering techniques means like what are the different methods through which we can gather the details regarding the system from different users or the persons or peoples who are using the system, so that we can find out like what are the you can say what are the strength of the systems are, and what are the weaknesses of the system, and what are the areas on which we need to focus when we are going to redesign the existing system. So these are the different methods through which we can gather the details regarding the system, and then on the basis of those details we can move forward for redesigning and development of the system. Okay, so first of all, we have when reviewing an existing system, gathering relevant data is crucial for understanding its functionality, effectiveness, and areas for improvement. Various techniques can be used to collect the data from different stakeholders. For example, you can say managers, okay, employees, and the normal users, customers. So like this, we can collect data from different stakeholders, and each of the technique has its own advantages, its own strengths, and its own limitations. Okay, so this is how we have to complete this assessment criteria. Like we have to explain different information gathering techniques, and we have to discuss like from these techniques we have to use some of the techniques in our assignment, so that we can provide evidence, like we have gathered the data from interviews, or you can say questionnaires or surveys, and these are the details we have gathered and for the existing system, and now we are doing these improvements in the existing system. So let's see what are these techniques, and what are their function and how they will work. Okay, so first of all we have interviews. Okay, so interviews, as you know, mostly when we are going somewhere for jobs, okay, so we give interviews. So in the interviews they give you like basic questions, like what is your qualification, what are your skills, like this. So now here what interviews do, here we are taking interviews from the different stakeholders of the system who are using this system, to check how effective is the system, and what are the you can say different things which the users are satisfied with the system, and what are the different things in the system which create problems for the users, and we have to work on those problems to overcome those problems, so that we can benefit the users who are using the system. Okay, so let's see what is interview. Interviews involves direct conversation between the system reviewer and key stakeholders, for example, users, system administrator, and managers. So these can be formal or informal, and structured or unstructured. So these are the different types of interviews. So in the interview, we have direct conversation between the users of the system and the interviewer, or the person who is taking the interview. So in this we have formal and informal interviews, and structured and unstructured interviews. So what are the formal interviews? Formal interviews are, you can say, held in a formal way. For example, the candidate will be intimated about the interviews well in advance, and the interviewer plans and prepares questions for the interviewer. So this is also called planned interview. Like in this, we inform the candidates like you have interviewed us, and we prepare questions like this question we will ask from the candidate, and then we record the responses. Then informal interviews, these are not pre-planned, okay, and they are not connected in formal way, and they are like they don't have the, you can say, written questions for the interview, okay. So in this informal interviews, it arranged without it don't have any written communication and can be arranged at any place. So there is no procedure of asking questions in this type of interview. It will be a friendly kind of interview. Like we don't stick to the pre-planned questions. We just ask question informally and take the responses and document them. Then we have the unstructured interviews. So structured and unstructured interviews. In structured interview, the interview is designed and detailed in advance. Okay, a structured interview is pre-planned, accurate, and consistent in hiring the candidates. And the unstructured interview is unplanned one, and where the interview questionnaire is not prepared, and the effectiveness of the interview is very less, and there is a tremendous waste of the time and effort of both the interview and the interview. So these are the different types of the interviews. Okay, so here is one example is the one which we are giving interviews for jobs. Okay, so here is the example related to the system design. So if we reviewing a hospital management system, interviews with nurses, doctors, and administrative staff could reveal how well the system support daily tasks like patient record management, scheduling, and billing. So this is one example in which we are taking interviews from the, if it's for hospital management system, so we are taking the relevant interviews from the relevant staff of the hospital. So here also we can take the example of a bank. Okay, so bank also has their own websites, their own system, their own portals, their own you can say applications. So we can go there to the bank, and we can ask different questions and take interview regarding the system. And we can also take interview from the users who are using the bank applications for their daily task. So these are the two examples for this interview information gathering technique. Then we have advantages and limitations for this. So first of all, we have personalized information. So personalized information means like direct interaction allows for in-depth understanding. So when we interact with the persons who are using the system, so definitely they can better you can say guide us about the functionality of the system, or what are the hazards they are you can say observing in the system. So it provides us in-depth and detailed understanding of the system. Then clarification, the interviewer can probe for more details or clarification. Okay, and rich insights provides qualitative data on user satisfaction, pain points, and workflows. So when we are directly connected with the peoples, with the stakeholders, with the users who are using the system, so definitely we will get the detailed information and detailed insights regarding the system. So on the basis of those details, we can check what are the user satisfaction points, what are the functions which are more attractive to the users, and what are the limitations for the in the system users are finding. Okay, so how the workflow is going on in the system. So these are the some of the advantages when we are using the interviews methodology or interview techniques to gather the information regarding a system. Then we have limitation. So it's interview can be time consuming. Okay, because interview can take a long time, especially with multiple stakeholders. So definitely if we have 4 or 5 interviews at one place, okay, or you can say in one day, so definitely maybe you are asking question from one stakeholder or one user, and it take a 2-3 hours. Okay, then next take 2-3 hours. So like this you have full day you have spent in interviewing the people who are using the system. So like this it can be, you can say, time consuming. Then bias. Responses may be biased by the interviewee's personal experience or perspectives. So it can be biased, like we can say, maybe users who don't like the, for example, who don't like the organization and don't like to work within the organization. Okay, maybe they give you wrong information about the system, and they say, okay, this is the error, this is the error in the system. So they may give the information on their own a personal experience or perspective or like this. So it can be biased. And then skill dependent. The quality of information depends on the interviewer's skill in asking the right question. So it also depends on the interviewer's skill, that how well he or she may ask the question from the users or stakeholders, and whether he is asking the correct questions which are relevant to the that person or not. So it depends, it also has limitation of skill dependent. And here we can say that, for example, if it's IT related information, the interview is taking information related to IT department of the system, okay, or IT domain. But he went there and asking this question from the, you can say, payroll manager. Okay, so definitely the payroll manager don't have the information about the IT department domain. So it you can say, now the question we are asking from the interview is wrong. So these are the limitations of interviews and the advantages of interviews. Technique for gathering the information regarding the existing system. Okay. So do you have any question in this slide?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Then we have observation. So as name shows, observation means we are observing something by ourselves. Okay. And whatever the thing we are observing, we are at that place. So definitely, if we are here, we are talking about the system development. So for observation, here we are at that place where the system is deployed, and we are now in the working environment of the system, and we are observing its working or functionality, how the system is working within the deployed environment. So observation involves watching users interact with the system in real time. This method helps the reviewer understand how the system is used in practice, what works well, and what causes problems. So we are observing the users who are using the system in real time, and we check like how the system work well and what are the areas where it causes the problems, and then we have to plan to overcome those problems. So here is the an example: observing how employees use an inventory management system to track stock levels and manage other orders. This could reveal inefficiencies in the user interface or bottlenecks in the workflow. Then we have advantages. So in advantages, we first advantage is direct insight. Direct insight means like directly we are checking and observing the system performance. So the reviewer gains a first-hand understanding of how the system is used. And unbiased data, since it's based on actual behavior, it often provides more objective data than interviews. Okay, so means like in this we are directly observing the system, and we are observing the system in the real time, so we don't add something from ourselves. We just mention those details which we have observed in the real time. Then our uncovers issues, reveals problems that users may not be able to articulate in interviews. So when we are observing the system in real time, so it may give us more clear understanding to the system, and it uncovers those issues which are in the interviews users are not able to convey through giving interviews. So this is more, you can say, efficient than interviews. Okay, then we have limitations. So it has limited scope. It may only capture what is happening during the observation period, not the entire system usage. So means like if we are observing any system, okay, so mostly in the observer, how much time he or she can spend within a organization for observation. Okay, maybe 2 hours, 3 hours. Okay, so system is working 8 hours or whatever the timings of the organization. Okay, so maybe we just observe what is happening in our observation time. We don't have the you can say details when we left the organization or behind the time which is not observed by us. So this has the limited scope, it maybe behave differently when we are observing, but it did behave differently when we left the organization and don't observe. Then resource intensive requires the observer to spend time in the field, which can be resource heavy. So definitely uh, you have to go to the organization, you have to come back. Okay, so it needs fare. Okay, uh, convenience you need. So definitely time you will also spend other things you can say paper pen for observing and recording the details. So these things cost you, so it can be resource intensive. Okay, so do you have any question in this slide? Anyone want to give any example of observation?
Observation is to observe the things.
Sorry, what did you say?
Observation is to observe the things.
No, I am asking, give one example.
Okay, ma'am.
So will you give? Do you have any example in your mind?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Maybe watching any study happening or anything without doing something specific.
Yes. Okay, good. Okay, so next we have documentation investigation. Documentation as names just it's a document type form. Okay, the document type thing in which you have all the related details regarding the system. Okay, so their requirements and how the modules within the system work and user manuals, like these type of things are in the documents. So document investigation means like we are reading and go through the existing documents related to the system, and then we are checking that how each module of the system is working and what are the important points and important modules within the system. So when we are purchasing a washing machine, for example. Okay, so they provide you a user manual like how to use the machine. Okay, and what are which button is for which purpose. So this is also work for the documentation for other softwares like which we are using, for example MS Word or Zoom, for example Chrome. Okay, so these softwares includes here as an example. So documentation investigates involves reviewing existing documentation related to the system, such as user manuals, technical manuals, design documents, and previous reports. So these are different types of documents which we can investigate and which are available within the organization. So we can check them and take details regarding the system. So analyzing the design specification of a legacy software system to identify gaps in functionality are outdated features that no longer meet the needs of the business. So once we check the documentation, okay, so we can check like now system is now this era is of AI. Okay, so maybe this existing system within the organization don't have the access of AI. Okay, they don't choose these type of software which are more accurate and more beneficial for them, and they are using the outdated version. So through documentation we can find that the system is outdated and how we can enhance it, and we can add the um, extra modules which meets the updated requirements of the industry. Okay, then we have the advantages. What are the advantages for this documentation investigation? Historical context, it helps us understand the original intent behind the system design. Through documentation we can find like what is the main objective, what is the main goal or aim of the this system behind this system design. So next we have broad overview provides a comprehensive understanding of the system's architecture and functionality. Okay, so definitely when we have the user manuals, technical manuals, design documents, so technical manuals also includes, you can say that different types of diagrams, okay, data flow diagrams or ERD, UML. Through those diagrams, you can say they represent the information like how the system will work and how different items or modules will be integrated together. So this provide us a more broad overview of the system architecture and its functionality. Then objective, unlike user interviews, this data is static and doesn't change based on perceptions or memory. Okay, so these are static data and it doesn't change. Like definitely once we make a system and we just made this documentation and now we are not adding or deleting from that documentation, so it is static and it don't change, does not change on the basis of time or with time passage. Okay, so what are the limitations here? Outdated information, documentation may be out of date, reflecting an old version of the system. Okay, so maybe like we can say, for example, within an organization, okay, they have installed Microsoft Office 2010, okay, and they have kept its you can say documentation in the organization, okay, to for information, okay, but now documentation is same, but now the organization has upgraded the version of Microsoft Office. Now they are using the 2016, and now someone, if someone is going to investigate the documentation of Microsoft Office, okay, which they are using, they will find that oh, this documentation is for 2010, and now the organization is using the upgraded version of 2016 and they don't have the upgraded documentation. So these could be outdated information of the documentation. Then incomplete information, sometimes documentation is incomplete or unclear, so sometimes we don't focus on making the documentation of the system, so it can be incomplete or unclear, or maybe the context in which the explainer is just explaining within the documentation, we don't understand that context and we take it with another context, so this can create ambiguity. Then we have lack of context, documentation may not reveal the real world issues or problems faced by users. Okay, so do you have any question in this slide? Okay, now we have the fourth, I think so, type, surveys. Okay, surveys involves asking a structured set of questions to a large number of people upon online to gather quantitative data. The questions can be closed-ended, yes or no, or multiple choice or open-ended. Okay, so surveys are, maybe you have seen the survey forms mostly. You can say when you use any product online, okay, they give you like survey type feedback forms, like you have to give feedback to us. Okay, so mostly we have seen nowadays feedback like you can say whenever you do a WhatsApp audio call or video call, okay, so they give you a pop-up message like how do you feel like calling this, so you can give the 5-star, 3-star, 2-star rating there. But in the surveys you have you are, if you are researching on any specific area, so you make you can say questions and then you add the, you can say different options like yes, no, uh, you agree, disagree, or you can say like this. You have scales like 1 2 3 4 5. If you are agreed, select this scale 1 2 3 4 5. So like this you have the structure of the surveys. So in those surveys you put a lot of questions like 20-30 questions, and then you print those surveys or provide online links to the communities, and then you gather the information. So distributing a survey to users of a financial software system, asking them to rate features like user friendliness, speed, and reliability on a Likert scale. So Likert scale means like you have designed a scale in which you have given the option 1 is the highest and 5 is the lowest, or 1 is the lowest and 5 is the lower, one is the highest, one is the lowest, and 5 is the highest scale. So once you gather the surveys back, okay, you will check like how many users have marked the 5 scale, how many mark the 1 or 2 scale. So like this you can check the quality of the system of financial software.